Watch my two fingers. Do you see my two fingers?
Dr. Vilanur Ramachandran is revolutionizing our understanding of how the brain works. His efforts to solve some of the most baffling neurological mysteries take him from the hospital bed to the outer limits of brain science.
The human brain is without any doubt the most complexly organized form of matter in the universe. The brain is made up of 100 billion nerve cells or neurons. Someone has calculated that the number of possible permutations and combinations of brain activity exceeds the number of elementary particles in the universe. And this gives you some idea of the staggering complexity one is faced with in trying to understand the functions of this mysterious organ. So the question is, how do you even begin?
Ramachandran began his investigations with a strange phenomenon called phantom limb syndrome. It's not uncommon for amputees to feel the vivid presence of a missing limb long after it has gone. One of Ramachandran's first patients was Derek Steen.
13 years ago, I was involved in a motorcycle accident, and I pulled the nerves out of my spinal cord up in my neck. They told my parents directly that I would never use my arm again. About 7 years ago, I was reading through the classifieds, and I saw an ad in there, amputees wanted. I thought it was a joke.
Like that.
It's just basically connecting the club to the ball. So I called the number, and it was Dr. Ramachandran.
Today, Derek is teaching Ramachandran how to play golf. But several years ago, Derek made a crucial contribution to Ramachandran's pioneering work in brain science.
Yes, that was amazing.
After my surgery, I sat up in the bed and still felt the arm there, still felt everything there. And I'm looking down and I'm seeing nothing. It was pretty bizarre. The more I thought about it, the more it hurt. The more it hurt, the more I thought about it. So it was like it was never ending. I mean, I'd break out in a cold sweat and turn pale just standing here talking to you because the pain would hit so bad.
If there is any one thing about our existence that we take for granted, it's the fact that we have a body. Each of us has a body, and you give it a name, it has a bank account, and so on and so forth. But it turns out even your body is something that you construct in your mind, and this is what we call your body image. Now, of course, in my case, it's substantiated by the fact that there really is a body with bone and tissue. But the sense I have, the internal sense I have of the presence of a body and arms and all of that is, of course, constructed in my brain, and it's in my mind. And the most striking evidence for this comes from these patients who have had an amputation and continue to feel the presence of the missing hand.
It was the beginning of an important relationship. Important for Derek because not only would he finally understand his phantom pain, he would also get to the bottom of a mysterious sensation he felt while shaving.
When I first started shaving after my surgery, I would feel my absent hand start to hurt and tingle whenever I shaved this left side of my face.
Meeting Derek was important for Ramachandran because the explanation he came up with would rock the world of neuroscience.
How about that?
That's just my arm.
The first thing Ramachandran did was to invite Derek to his lab for a simple test.
Derek, I'm going to touch different parts of your body, and I just want you to tell me what you feel and where you experience the sensation, okay?
Okay.
Close your eyes.
You could feel that on my forehead?
Anything anywhere else?
No.
Okay.
It's on my nose,
Okay.
my chest.
Your chest. Okay.
I can feel that on my cheek, and I can feel rubbing on the phantom left hand.
On the phantom left hand, in addition to your cheek, I'm going to run the Q-tip across your jaw and see what happens.
I can feel the Q-tip on my cheek, and I can feel a stroking sensation across the phantom hand.
You actually feel it stroking across your phantom hand, across the palm. So here is a medical mystery of sorts. Why does this happen? Why would a person, when you touch his face, claim that it's also touching his missing phantom fingers? That's fine.
Palm.
Thumb and palm.
This was just the kind of mystery that Ramachandran was drawn to, although it would take some time to solve. One day, while Derek was making one-armed repairs on his favorite Chevy, Ramachandran turned up with his solution. It was a groundbreaking theory.
The reason we think it happens is that in the brain there is a complete map of the surface of the body. The entire left side of my body, the skin surface, is mapped on to the right side of my brain along a vertical strip of cortex, which we call the somatosensory cortex. Similarly, the right side of my body is represented on the left side of my brain. So every point on your body surface has a corresponding point on this body map. Now it turns out that the representation of the face on this map is right next to the representation of the hand. Now that's a bit surprising, as you'd expect the map to be continuous and faithfully represent the left side of my body. But it doesn't. Now imagine what would happen if the left arm were amputated. The part of the brain corresponding to the hand no longer gets any input, and it's hungry for new sensory input, so to speak. The sensory signals from the face normally activate only the face area that's right next to the hand area, but they now invade the vacated territory corresponding to the missing hand and start activating the hand region in the brain. And so whatever is reading those signals higher up misinterprets those signals. It says those signals are coming from the missing hand. So you experience the sensations as coming from the missing fingers, even though I'm touching your face. And this is showing there's been a massive reorganization of the sensory pathways in your brain after the amputation. And it's as though there's been a cross-wiring in your brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At first, some members of the neuroscience community scoffed at Ramachandran's new theory that neural pathways in the brain can change.
One of the dogmas in neurology has always been that connections are laid down in the fetus in an early infancy. And once these connections are laid down, there's nothing you can do to change them.
As a scientist, Ramachandran knew that such a radical proposal needed scientific proof. It was time to give Derek a brain scan. Hopefully, this would show what was actually going on in his brain. But would it prove that Ramachandran's hunch was correct? When various parts of Derek's body were wired up, the corresponding activity in his brain revealed the layout of his body map. This is a scan of Derek's brain. The green spot shows the brain's response to the stimulation of Derek's existing right hand. Next to it, the red spot shows that the right side of Derek's face is also being stimulated. So far, everything is normal. But in the right hemisphere, the green spot has disappeared because Derek's missing left arm can no longer send signals to his brain. Remarkably, the red area, which corresponds to his left cheek, has now taken over the whole space. These results vindicated Ramachandran's detective work.
It's as though now the sensory input from the face is innervating a completely new part of the brain. And this means new pathways have been opened up. Whether this is because there's been an actual sprouting of new nerve fibers, or there have been pre-existing silent pathways which are now suddenly active, we're still working on. We suggested that maybe the connections are already there, like reserve troops ready to be called into action. And when you amputate the hand, these latent connections suddenly become active.
Phantom sensations do not only occur in the limbs.
But in fact, you can get a phantom with almost any part of the body. You can get phantom menstrual cramps after hysterectomy. You can get phantom appendix pain even after the appendix has been removed. Theoretically, you could have a phantom of almost any part of the body, except, of course, the brain. You can't have a phantom brain by definition, because that's where we think it's all happening.
Luckily for Derek, his phantom pain has subsided. But that's not always the case. James Peacock has suffered excruciating pain since he lost his hand 6 years ago.
A few days after I'd woke up, it might have been a week to 8 or 9 days, something like that, before the pain really started getting bad, to where it was like your hand is just crunched up real tight and stuff, or balled up, and you can't move it. To unclench it, it's just, you can't. You've tried in your mind.
This raises a perplexing clinical problem. How do you treat pain in a body part that's missing? James tried everything, from painkillers to hypnotism, but nothing worked.
Until I found out about the mirror box.
It was then that he came to see Ramachandran.
And one answer might be that the brain is sending signals to the arm and trying to clench it. But in you and me, there's messages going back from the muscles of the hand telling you you're clenching too much or too fast. And this damps the command signals, so you can slow down. But the patient has no feedback because he doesn't have an arm. So the brain says, send even more signals, okay? And this goes on, and you get into a sort of positive feedback loop. So I said, well, if you give him some other source of feedback, such as visual feedback, maybe that'll trick the brain into thinking that the hand is clenching or unclenching, and maybe you can interrupt this loop. So I said, well, why don't we put a mirror there and have James look inside the mirror? It's just as though you have visually resurrected the phantom limb. And of course, the patient knows it's an illusion, but it's very, very compelling.
Right now, as you look in there and you move your hand, your phantom does the same thing as your left hand is doing. First time I got in here and I've done this, and it was just like, it relieved the phantom pain, unclenched it. It was just, so intriguing, Sometimes it's hard to explain how you felt,
Ramachandran believes the mirror box needs to be evaluated with many patients before he can be sure that it really works. But its undeniable success in uncramping James's phantom hand suggests that even pain can be a construct of the mind.